Was it crucial that Luke confronted Vader, and in turn Palpatine, aboard the second Death Star at the end of Return of the Jedi? Or as some suggest, did it not matter because the two Dark Lords of the Sith would have been killed anyway, blown up along with the Death Star whether Luke was there or not? Now, first of all, let's remember that when Vader sensed Luke being aboard the shuttle Tydirium as part of the strike team that would try to take down the shield that protected the second Death Star, he took this information to the Emperor, who told Vader to go to the moon and wait for Luke to come to him. Which he, of course, did, and as you know, Luke did come to him, and despite his pleas, Vader took him to the Death Star and before the Emperor. Now, had Luke not gone to Endor at all, which he actually does say that he shouldn't have gone when he realizes Vader could sense him, Vader would have instead most likely been on his flagship, the Super Star Destroyer Executor, for the duration of the Battle of Endor. Now, you may immediately point out that the Executor crashed into the Death Star during the Battle of Endor, which probably would have killed Vader anyway. But the argument could be made that had Vader stayed in command of his ship, he may have done things differently, and perhaps the Executor never crashes into the Death Star at all. Or, worse yet for the Rebellion, perhaps he would have hopped into the cockpit of his TIE Advanced and taken part in the battle on a more intimate level, such as he did at the Battle of Yavin, and something he did countless times as Anakin during the Clone Wars. We've also seen him do this in the show Rebels, when he almost single-handedly destroyed an entire small Rebel fleet. Now, before I go on, one thing I've always found very curious is that on multiple occasions the Emperor orders Vader to remain on his command ship. Why is that curious? Because also on multiple occasions the Emperor claims that everything is proceeding as I have foreseen, which almost makes one wonder, did he foresee the Executor crashing into the Death Star? And did he foresee or even want Vader to be on board it when it did? I don't know about you, but I've always wondered why he was so adamant that Vader remain on his command ship. Is this the answer to that? Was he trying to get rid of Vader? But why would the Emperor want to do away with Vader at this point? Now, that I can only speculate on, but perhaps he had a totally different plan for turning Luke to the dark side, one that no longer involved Vader. Perhaps Palpatine was already starting to sense the conflict in Vader, the same conflict that Luke sensed, and feared or even foresaw his eventual turn back to the light. Perhaps in a Force vision Palpatine had, he saw himself dying at the hands of Vader, which of course did come to pass, but it was without proper context, so he didn't know when or where or how it would happen, and figured it safest to get rid of him as soon as possible. This would make sense because we know that Force visions, such as Rey's or even the one we saw Ezra having in Rebels, can be confusing if not impossible to properly interpret. We also know what Yoda says in The Empire Strikes Back, always in motion the future is. Another possibility is that Palpatine had a new apprentice waiting in the wings and wanted to be done with Vader. It could be whoever Snoke truly is, Ezra from Rebels, or perhaps even Benicio del Toro's character from Episode 8. Or maybe it's someone we don't even know about. Who knows, but it could be a possibility for wanting to be rid of Vader. So, what threw a wrench into Palpatine's plan then? He somehow didn't foresee that Luke would be at the Battle of Endor. Remember when Vader goes to the Death Star and tells the Emperor that a small rebel force has penetrated the shields and landed on Endor? The Emperor snaps back at him, "Yes, I know." Vader then goes on to tell him that my son is with them, and the Emperor says back that it's strange that I haven't felt him, and asks if his feelings on this matter are clear. Vader confirms that they are clear, and then is sent to Endor to wait for Luke, as I mentioned before. So already we can see that Luke being at the Battle of Endor has had an impact on how it would play out. It has taken Vader off the Executor, or even out of the cockpit of his TIE Advanced, where we know he would have wreaked absolute havoc on the Rebel fleet, maybe so much so that their attack ultimately fails, and it instead placed him very much distracted on the Death Star. And Luke's presence on the Death Star also would distract the Emperor as to what was transpiring during the battle, instead of possibly issuing orders during it that may have changed the outcome. Okay, so Luke's presence alone does seem to have altered the course of events, but let's for a minute assume that Luke hadn't been there at all, and that the Rebels had still been victorious and blown up the Death Star, and Vader would have died when the Executor crashed into the Death Star. Doesn't that mean that the Emperor still dies when the Death Star blows up? Now that's doubtful. One thing to keep in mind is that Vader actually tosses the Emperor down the shaft before Lando destroys the main reactor. Why is that important? Because you really think that once the reactor was destroyed, they all would have just stood there and accepted their fate? That they were all about to be blown up? Well, maybe Luke would have, because he even says to the Emperor at one point, "Soon I'll be dead, and you with me." At which point, the Emperor lets him know that absolutely everything that has transpired has been a part of his plan. Even the Alliance learning the location of the shield generator was part of his plan, and that was so he could lure the Rebel fleet in and destroy it. So had the Death Star started to blow up before Vader had turned back to the light and killed him, you can rest assured Palpatine would have simply killed Luke, which he could have done at any time, and gotten his ass off the Death Star, likely taking some sort of personal escape craft that he had in his viewing tower. And had Luke not been there at all, and had the rebels still managed to blow up the Death Star, Palpatine would have just gotten his ass off the Death Star even quicker, not having to waste precious time dispatching Luke. And remember how much time Lando and Wedge had to fly back out of the Death Star once they blew the reactor. Certainly more than enough time for Palpatine to get off the Death Star too. Also keep in mind how many Imperials we see heading for ships while Luke and Vader have their first true father and son moment on the ramp of a shuttle. So a lot of people got off the second Death Star alive, and you can bet Palpatine would have been one of them had he not already been dead. But there are other reasons why it is important for Luke to be there. Remember what Yoda says shortly before he dies, that Luke must confront Vader again, that then and only then will he truly become a Jedi. Luke even proclaims himself one to the Emperor when he tosses away his saber and refuses to kill his father or to fight any longer. In other words, him confronting his father again and not giving in fully to his anger and killing him were his Jedi trials he passed to become, of course, a Jedi. Also keep in mind that Darth Vader was destroyed and Anakin Skywalker was brought back to the light before he died, all thanks to Luke being there. Why is that important? Because it somehow allowed Anakin Skywalker to become a Force ghost after he died. Now, do you really think Anakin's there with Yoda and Obi-Wan in the final scene of Return of the Jedi? Had he not gone back to the light? Had he just been blown up on the Executor or second Death Star as still being Darth Vader? And this is significant because now Luke, conceivably, can talk to and learn from his father Anakin Skywalker as he creates his new Jedi Order instead of him just being dead and gone. It also lets Luke know that Yoda was wrong in The Empire Strikes Back when he says, "Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny." And it's important that Luke knows that because he now believes, during the new trilogy of course, that he will be able to save Ben Solo from the dark side, just like he once saved his father. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one, and all things Star Wars to come. If you're already a subscriber, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, then click the notification button or follow me on Twitter. I don't currently post a whole lot on there, but that may change in the future. And as always, thanks for watching.